Hey everyone, it's Lindsay here at Anglers, and I am here with Steve and Jesse from Goodlines Lure Company. So as you guys hopefully know by now, we are having a big Snakehead kickoff event next weekend, April 2nd and 3rd. So we are going to have 2 full days of educational seminars with a bunch of our local snakehead, lure manufacturers, guides, experts. We're even going to have some filleting demonstrations, snakehead sampling, a presentation in Spanish even for the Hispanic angler. Unfortunately, you guys aren't able to make it next weekend, but that's okay because this is going to be cool. This is going to give everyone out there a look at your lures. We are huge fans of your guys' stuff here. Awesome product for Snakehead. If you haven't tried them, you're definitely going to want to. They will be 10% off during the weekend along with all other Snakehead lures. So we're going to do a little bit of a educational seminar here today with Steve and Jesse to kind of give you guys a preview of what you're going to see next weekend. So take it away, guys.
Great. So this first lure is our Snaky Shaky, and this is the first lure that Steve and I created. Essentially, this is like a chatterbait, but we did things a little bit different with this lure. We brought the hook gap a little bit smaller so that snakeheads from the dink size all the way up to the dragon size would be attracted and easy to hook. We added a 3.5-inch paddle tail on the Snaky Shaky so that when a snakehead bites, it has a better chance of getting around that hook on the first bite. And then we put a double bend in our hook for better water displacement and more action. When I fish this lure, I either pull it right under the surface and I create a really nice wake, and sometimes you can see the snakehead just dart out of the grass and the lily pads, and that's really exciting. Or you can slow roll this right off the bottom, pick them up that way too. This is our frog lure. This is a 3.5-inch bully frog. Essentially, we made our own bully hook for this with a teaser spinner on the back of it. And sometimes I work this right on top. Its feet kick, the spinner twirls. But most of the time I work it right under the surface and I do kind of a jerkbait motion so that it looks like a frog swimming. And that is a really exciting way to catch a snakehead. Really gets your blood boiling.
So when are you deciding to use a chatterbait versus the frog? Like, what are you guys looking for?
It's a lot to do with mood. Where we're from, there's not a lot of grass, so we can use either one and not worry about getting hooked up in vegetation. But if I'm fishing in heavy cover, I can cast this or our other frog right into the branches and pull it through without getting hung up. Obviously, you can't do that with an exposed hook chatterbait. So that's sort of how I make a decision on that. So if they're not biting on one, I switch to the other and it usually works out for me.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta throw everything in the tackle box. It's just the way it is, Some days they'll bite on one thing and they won't bite on the next. This is our spinner. So we kind of created, if you ever seen the smaller like June bug spinners, we caught snakeheads on them left and right. So we're like, okay, we gotta build something, upscale it, sturdier frame, kind of designed for the snakehead, so when this guy rolls, the blade is rolling right by the hook. Great action. This thing vibrates like a chatter.
So you're pretty much just using a steady retrieve with that?
Yeah, you can use a steady retrieve. If you're real faster, obviously you're going to come closer to the top. We're a little slower, drops down. And this is our Froggy Junior. This guy works great on cover, thrown up in lily pads. It's a smaller presentation than our bully frog. And sometimes, when you're out snakehead fishing, they'll eat smaller baits over bigger baits. You know what I mean? So we created something where you got the option of a smaller frog or a larger frog. And, I'd say one of my biggest tips for any newcomer that is snakehead fishing, by memory, when I get a bite, most fish are in this area, they grab and take, and when I get a bite out of memory, I'm just like, I want to set that hook right away. Snakeheads, you cannot do that. They chomp. They're predatory fish, and they chomp and then they come back and take. So if you try to hook set right away, a lot of times you're going to lose that fish, and it's like retraining yourself. So that fish hits it and you got to pause a second or two and then set the hook. So that'd probably be one of my biggest tips if you're first getting into snakehead fishing.
That's right. And when I'm out and I'm throwing either our spinner or our chatter, I usually pull up right on the edge of the lily line, and I'll cast, and I'll bring it right down the face of those lilies, and you know that makes a better chance at catching one or attracting one, because a lot of the times they're sitting right on the edge waiting to ambush. If I pull into a pocket in the lilies, I'll cast sort of work it like a clock, so like 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. That way I can really hit every single area in that pocket. Steve likes to take his time. I usually hit a spot, and if I don't catch the thing, I roll on right away. Both techniques work. You know, I catch a lot more snakeheads than Steve, but
I don't think so.
Are you guys typically kayak fishing or shore
Yeah.
fishing? Kayak fishing.
Yep.
Okay.
We started out shore fishing, but
Okay.
eventually, you know, some of them areas get so overcrowded, and we ended up, you know, purchasing some kayaks, and that's where we fish from. Get out there and get a little more area, and everybody's not on top of everybody. So yeah,
that's right.
but
Yeah.
we've done a lot of shore fishing as well.
Yeah, and like you said with the kayak, you know, if you're not catching something, move.
You can move. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The only other thing that I would say to a new snakehead fisherman or somebody that wants to get into it is you don't have to go where everybody else is going. We've made a habit of going on Google Maps, and we find a creek that runs off of any of the rivers off the Chesapeake, and we go there and we look and we fish, and we either see one or we catch one every time we go. They're just everywhere now. So good luck.
That's a great point. They are
Yeah,
everywhere.
they are.
What are you like when you're looking at Google Maps? Okay, a creek, but like, what are you looking for specifically? What tells you that's going to be a good spot to go target snakehead?
Kind of marshy looking,
Mm-hmm.
you know, any areas like that. Any you can go on Google Maps and find a big river and you just follow it up to any tributary, you know, any creek or anything like that. And if you can gain access, you know, obviously you don't want to be dragging your kayak across private property.
Right.
But most of the time from the road, you find a bridge that runs over that creek and you can put in right there, or find a boat ramp that's close.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great advice. And there are public launches on most of our main rivers, so it might require a little bit of paddling, but
Yeah.
like you said, follow it up there till you get in that marshy area.
You might
lily
find a friend
pads.
you have in the area and launch right from there. So.
always,
That's ideal.
always good too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out today. Really appreciate it. Again, this is just a little preview of what you guys are going to be seeing all weekend on the 2nd and 3rd. We're going to have lots of guys like Jesse and Steve out here giving you guys tips, and they'll be here to answer questions. So we're sorry that you guys can't make it, but thank you again for giving us a little preview and giving us some good tips for beginner snakehead. So make sure you come out, 10% off all of their lures.
Awesome. Thanks for
We'll
having
see you
us.
guys soon.
Thanks for having us.